Okay, let's get right into this explainer. I want to start with a deeply counterintuitive idea. The most dangerous business failure you're ever going to face, it doesn't look like an explosion. It looks like, well, a completely normal Tuesday. You see, companies rarely collapse because one morning everyone just deliberately decides to lower their standards. That's just not how businesses fail. Instead, the decline is almost always slower, much quieter, and honestly far more insidious than a sudden crash.
In fact, if you were to walk the floor of a declining company today, your very first impression might be that absolutely nothing is broken. Everything seems completely fine. Your revenue is holding steady, the team is showing up, your dashboards aren't flashing red, and the business is surviving. But beneath that false stability, the system is quietly, steadily deteriorating. And the real reason nobody is sounding the alarm, it's rooted deeply in human psychology.
Chaos is a state that immediately triggers alarms, whereas drift is a slow direction that we humans just naturally adapt to. Think about it. If a major project fails publicly or a massive penalty hits, everyone notices instantly. That is chaos. But if 5 minutes of delay gradually becomes 10, or one temporary workaround just kind of becomes permanent company policy, nothing dramatic happens, the system is getting worse, but no single event feels large enough to trigger a massive redesign.
This mechanism is what we call the baseline drift trap. It's this incredibly dangerous cycle where a small decline occurs, we adapt to it. We call it the new normal, and then the bar drops again. We adapt again. Eventually, the organization completely forgets that the previous, higher standard ever even existed. We essentially redefine deterioration as normal operations, completely losing sight of what excellent performance actually meant.
Let's look at how this plays out in reality. Think back to when your original delivery standard, the baseline you and your team were genuinely proud of, was a crisp, reliable 2 days. It was a point of pride. That was exactly what good looked like, and everyone knew it.
Then, maybe due to a temporary workload spike or some new friction in the process, that delivery time slips to 3 days. And here is the kicker. Nobody panics. They just assume it's a busy season, they adapt to it, it's tolerable, right? The team pushes through, and the 3-day standard quietly settles in as just the way things are done right now.
Eventually, that friction compounds, and delivery hits 4 days. And right here is where the trap snaps shut. Instead of comparing those 4 days to the original baseline of 2 days, your team compares it to the recent 3 days. They completely lose memory of what good originally looked like. So instead of seeing a 50% degradation, they look at the current situation and say, hey, 4 days is pretty normal.
So what do? We have to force a stark, evidence-driven, then versus now comparison to completely shatter this illusion of stability. We don't need a complicated dashboard. We just need historical truth. When delivery jumps from 2 to 4 days, when margin shrinks from 34% to 25%, and rework nearly triples, you have to stop asking, is 4 days acceptable? And start asking the real question, why did 2 days become 4?
Now, there's a really critical distinction to make between internal and relative drift. Internal drift is what we just looked at, your own operations literally slowing down over time. But relative drift, that is even sneakier. This happens when your internal metrics stay perfectly flat. Say you still deliver in 2 days, but your competitors and customer expectations are constantly improving. If you remain flat while the world accelerates around you, you are still experiencing profound relative decline.
All of this creates an incredibly dangerous condition, false stability. Top-line revenue hasn't dropped, so leadership assumes everything is perfectly fine. But underneath that revenue, your customer acquisition costs, your support tickets, and your employee workloads have all silently ballooned just to maintain that exact same output. You are literally running twice as hot just to stay in the exact same place. When you uncover this false stability, it's so tempting to just shrug and say, hey, everyone has delays in this industry, or that's just how the market is right now. But the strategic question to firmly ask is, what specifically changed? What underlying constraint, metric, or operational process shifted to cause this erosion in the first place?
To figure out what changed, we have to look closely at our alarms. Now, most alarms inside a business, stressed teams, rising churn, missed deadlines, customer complaints, are what we call soft signals. They are signals management can very easily rationalize away. You can blame the broader market, you can blame a difficult client, you can call it a temporary staff shortage. Soft signals are just incredibly easy to snooze.
But when you tie that missing value to an explicit negative price penalty, acting as a -1 interrupt, it's a totally different story. It acts as a hard cash bug report. If promise value goes missing and you literally have to pay a financial penalty for it, it becomes utterly impossible to rationalize away.
It forces you to stop blaming abstract market conditions and start looking directly at your own system. Value leaked somewhere, and it's actively costing you cash.
This hard economic alarm forces you to stop blaming your employees and start classifying the true systemic cause of the drift. You have to ask, was it process drift, where unnecessary approvals slowly crept in? Was it technology drift, where better tools exist today, but you're still doing things manually? Or maybe it's allocation drift, which is incredibly common. This is where your highly skilled talent is slowly misallocated to low-value repetitive tasks over time.
Once you've successfully classified the root cause, you don't just tell people to try harder. You strategically triage the leak by applying one of 4 logical responses. You either fix the specifically broken step, you entirely redesign the process if it's fundamentally flawed, automate the manual, repeatable work, or if your system simply cannot deliver what marketing is selling, you tightly narrow your promise to match what you can actually prove and deliver.
But listen, here is a vital, non-negotiable warning as you try to fix these systems. Do not confuse a genuinely working system with heroic employees who are burning out trying to manually compensate for a deteriorating baseline. If your process is terrible but your team is working 60-hour weeks to manually brute force an acceptable outcome for the customer, your system is failing. You are just hiding that failure behind human stress.
So, let's say you find the leak, you fix the process, and you finally relieve the heroes. After you apply the correction, you cannot just say, "Problem solved," and move on. You must deliberately reset and explicitly record the new standard. If you fix delivery from 4 days back down to 2.5 days, you must explicitly declare 2.5 days as the new recorded baseline. Without this reset, organizational memory will simply start silently drifting all over again.
To put this into practice, you maintain what is called a baseline ledger. It's a remarkably simple, evidence-driven tracker connecting your original standard to its current direction. It systematically notes the economic cost of the drift, identifies the specific correction applied, and officially locks in the new standard. This is how you protect institutional memory and ensure that progress isn't quietly undone.
Let's look at how this builds on our previous explainers. We've established models for continuous testing, claim diagnosis, acquisition direction, and customer compounding. But standard protection is the critical, final layer that stops all that hard-earned compounding from quietly eroding over time. You can build a truly great business with those earlier models, but standard protection is exactly how you keep it.
Ultimately, shifting baseline syndrome thrives on intellectual resignation. It wins when we just accept things as they are. But as operational leaders, we must completely refuse the excuse that that's just how the industry works or everyone does it. That is not a diagnosis. We have to demand to know exactly why the standard slipped and what constraint makes it unavoidable, rather than ever surrendering to mediocrity.
To start implementing this hard economic interrupt in your own offers, you can use the framework from NegBook and the -1 diagnostic tool at negbook.com. It's specifically designed to help you explicitly map your value leaks, identify exactly where workarounds became permanent, and establish firm, protective baselines that keep your entire operation honest and moving forward.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a core truth to examine in your own operations. Look at your metrics. Look at your processes. Don't wait for the system to break entirely. Notice when the standard starts moving and raise the bar again. Because ultimately, the most dangerous decline is the decline you start calling normal.